Good evening. There. Good evening. I'm Paul Sumner, President of the Coastal Plains chapter of the Georgia Native Plant Society, and I want to welcome you here tonight and hope this webinar will be a beginning of more to come. Let's do some housekeeping items. Please keep your mics muted during the webinar. Please use the chat box to ask questions. At the end of the presentation, we will answer questions. In order to know how many people are on tonight, so we can have a record, please type in the chat box your name, GNPS chapter affiliation, and if you're not a member of GNPS, please put the city and state you're from. The Georgia Native Plant Society has chapters located across the state of Georgia. I would encourage you to join our cause in putting more native plants into the landscape. Well, it's getting that time of the year to start collecting native plant seed. And tonight's presentation will be some of our experiences and some guidelines for being more successful in collecting seeds for growing native plants. So why do we want to collect native seed? Native seed with a plant selection from your location, a local ecotype. That would be one method. Hard to find species. Maybe there's a species that you would like to have in your garden and you can't find it. A neighbor has that species. Maybe that neighbor would share that species with you. That would be one way. And then genetic diversity and preservation. Tonight's topics, we're going to discuss native seed production a little bit, seed collecting, when are seeds ready, identify the different types of seeds, seed cleaning methods, and seed storage requirements. Seed production. Native flowers, native plant flowers are pollinated by butterflies, bees, insects of various choice. And then from that fertilization, seeds are developed in the ovary of the plant. And that's where we're going to go from there. Useful tools and supplies for seed collection. A pair of shears. Shears can be used to cut off seed heads and make it easier to harvest multiple seed heads on plants. Gloves will help avoid getting stuck by spines and that may come on plants and seed. Paper and plastic bags. Paper and plastic bags to collect seed in, and then also for a larger bag or sack or backpack to put those bags in. And then pens and markers to label the bags with pertinent information, and then a booklet or seed journal that you can take notes in, so that you know that when you do take those notes, you got something to go back and reference to. I want to remind you, if you're putting your name, first and last name, in the chat box and the chapter you belong to. The next thing we want to do is go and collect seed. You want to collect seed from site where and do the least amount of damage to that site when collecting seed. Another thing is you do not want to collect from private property unless you have permission. or you do not want to collect from public lands or private parks or state parks without a permit. If you find a plant that you want to collect some seed from, and you might not know what it looks like when it dries up and in the seed stage, you might want to flag it. Get some flagging tape, write on the flagging tape what the name of the plant is, and then mark it so you'll be able to come back to it when the seeds are ready to be harvested. We want to collect ripe seed, firm and plump and dry. Seeds are usually ready 6 to 8 weeks after flowering, and the seeds heads should be brown and dry. So there's a golden rule to collecting seed. Collect no more than 10% of the ones present. Only collect from populations of numerous plants. Don't collect from just one plant at all. You want to collect from more than one plant. Collect a few number of seeds from multiple plants to encourage genetic diversity. Do not don't go back and to the same spot every year collecting seed if you're going out and collecting multiple records. And then keep records of that when you have been there. Go to another part of the area that there would be that species of plant available to collect seed from. And then finally, do not collect seed from rare, protected, or site-specific plants. So how do we know when the seed is right? The receptacle and the pedicle will turn brown. So what does that mean? That means that to me, as somebody goes out and collects seed, if I see green on a seed head, then that seed head is not ready to harvest. And we need to wait and come back later and come and get that seed head. When you're doing your seed collection, and it's important that we do labeling of the bags that we collect seed in. You want to label them with plant name, common and scientific, if you know the scientific name, the location of where you collected, the date collected, the person who collected seed, if you've got more than one person with you out collecting seed, and then maybe what is the seed treatment that would be required before planting that seed. And if you don't know that, the Jan Midgley's book, Native Plant Propagation, has many treatment requirements, will show different requirements for all types of seed. So you can look that up when you get back to your home. So which part is seed and what is not seed? You know, when you start to clean these seed, there's a lot of debris. There's shaft, stems, leaves, the sepals, the capsule itself. All this material is in when you start to tear that seed head apart. You need to figure out how do you identify the seed? And then how do you determine if it is fertile and mature also? So we'll look at that. So let's look at some species of seed, of plants. Ironweed. Ironweed, when it dries down, when you want to collect the seed is when it dries down to a brown coloration. The pappus is real fluffy, and when you pull it out, the seed will be on the end of the fluffy part of the aster itself. And this goes for most all asters. And when you look at the seed, when you tear these asters apart, the seed on the right of your screen are what kind of seed we're looking for. if you take your fingernail and mash down on that seed part, it will not collapse. If you look at the seed on the left hand of your screen, those are not fertile seed. I mean, they do not have any germ in. If you mash them with your fingernail on a hard surface, they wouldn't be anything to them. And if you planted those, they would not come up, and you would have failures. Joe pipeweed is another aster type of plant. Once it's fertilized, the seed on it are just very similar as to an aster. And when you pull those seed, uh, the pappus off of those, the seed are at the end of it. Indigo or baptisia. There are several varieties of those out there. When the seed pods turn brown to black, and you can go up to them and grab them, they rattle. It's another name for them is rattle boxes. So when you go to harvest these seed, you need to be particular on what these seed pods look like on the outside and examine them closely if you don't process them quickly, because the insects will get in there, and especially weevils will go in and eat the germ out of all the seed that are in that pod. And you want to make sure you get rid of those. And the way you can kill those weevils so that they won't harm your seed is you can take those seed once you process them and put them in the freezer for a week, and the weevil will die. Milkweed. Once the pod is on the plant, and you're gonna know that you're gonna be able to harvest the seed from that milkweed. The stages of milkweed, when the pod starts to turn from brown, turn from green to brown, and may show some sign of splitting, then it is getting ready to be, you'll be able to harvest that pod. Don't waste your time on that. And sometimes that if you can be too late and they all go away. What you can do is take and wrap a rubber band around the pod so that it doesn't bust open when it dries out. The other thing you can do is you can take these little sacks, like rice bags, you can order off online and put over the pod and tie it off, and make sure that when it does become ripe and it opens up, you're collecting all the seed from that pod. Oh, the other thing too is that when you go to clean these seed, the little white fluffy stuff on it, if you clean them out of the seed pod and then have them in a bowl and go out on your deck and stick a lighter to it, all the little white fluff will burn off of those seed. Zizia. Zizia, whenever you process it, this is where I had harvest some seed, and I had taken all the stems out of it, and then I shook them and got out the seed. And one thing about Zizia is if you wait too late on those, they'll fall off and onto the ground, and you'll lose them. So you want to go ahead and harvest them as quick as possible once they turn brown. And if you look in the picture here, those seed in the bottom right corner are immature seed, and they're not. But if you look on up closer to the pin, They're the more plump seed, fat, and even I think even the green seed here in this case will dry down and will be a seed that will produce a plant for you. Skull cap. Skull cap, when it produces seed, it goes from green to brown, and then green to tan and to brown. And when you have to watch these things real close. If you wait too long, they'll pop up on you, and when they do, it opens up that pod, but it throws the seed out onto the ground or into the pot if you're growing them in a pot. So the seed are small, as you can see here, and they're black. And the black ones are the ones that has the highest germ in them. Columbine. Columbine, when it finishes flower, the the seed head will start to lean over. And what you want to do when you harvesting these, you need to have your pan or your sack, paper sack, underneath the seed heads, and clip them with scissors or with shears into the sack. Because if you try to cut them off and hold them in your hand and then transfer them over into the sack, you'll lose half of the seed that you're trying to collect. False sunflower. False sunflower, like the rest of them, they turn brown to black. And what you see here in this picture, you see the seeds are there in that head. And then when you go and tear it apart, and the seed they are black in there. And these are good seed. And that's from that seed head. Purple coneflower. Purple coneflower is similar to the false sunflower. You can actually see the seeds in there. So you know when you're harvesting your heads, you will have seed, and then when you process them, you see here on the right side are the ones that are more mature seed. Even some of the ones on the left side are mature also. Hibiscus. This is showing a green seed pod. Hibiscus are like the Baptisia. The weevils like to get in these. You want to check them when you harvest them, when they are brown like this. And when you process them, you break them apart and pull the seed out, and all the biggest ones. And you need to inspect these seed for little holes in them for the weevils feeding on them. Cardinal flower. When the flowers are spent and you have what's left is the capsules, and each one of these capsules on the right has several seed in them. And when you mash them and you're processing them, those seed, they'll fall out, and they're real fine seed. They're similar to the beard tongue seed, as you see here in this picture. The small particles on that white paper are the seed from the beard tongue, and the cardinal flower is they're a little bit bigger than that. The other thing, when processing beard tongue capsules, lay them out on a flat area, put down a paper and lay them out, and then take a rolling pin and roll over the capsules themselves and to break them open to release the seed for you. Spider lilies. Spider lilies, once that bloom goes away, that seed starts to form and grow and grow. And as it's growing, it has an onion skin type outer layer on it. And once it matures, that onion skin layer comes off, and those seed will fall off of that stem onto the ground if you don't go ahead and capture them. And if they fall on the ground, usually the rodents will get to them and carry them off. So you want to collect these seeds before they get to that stage of falling off that stem. All right, that's a few of the forbs. Grasses. Grasses is something that we are starting to play with a lot in our propagation scheme. So the thing where are cool season and warm season grasses. So warm season grasses flower late summer. So you want to collect seed close to winter from them, like the muley grass is one example of that. And then cool season grasses flower in early spring, and then you collect seed in late summer. Well, an example of that is river oats is one example of that. From what I can determine, it doesn't do what the best way to store the grasses is to store them at 70 degrees. It doesn't have, there's no advantage of storing them in temperatures below 70, but they'll stay viable for many years. And the seeds are located on the end of the spikelets. And this is some examples of grasses, the bushy blue stem, and you can see why it gets the name bushy to it. And then the regular old broom sedge. And then on the right is the split beard, and it gets its name characteristic of the spikes splitting out there on the end. All right, so we've collected seed. Now it's time to bring them home, and you can't. It's best not to go ahead and process them because they may not be fully dry. So you want to do a minimum amount of processing to them. Take out the stems, move the leaves, and make it from a big bushy stem seed head collection to a smaller amount of seed head, and put them in a paper sack and put them in in your house in the air conditioning so that they will dry naturally. The other thing to keep in mind when collecting seed is never leave collected seed in a vehicle or put them on the dash of the vehicle, because what happens when people leave seed in things in the car will get hot. And then if you do, temperatures in there can get above 120. And if the temperature gets above 100, that seed gets above 120, that will kill the germ in that seed. The best thing to do in this case is to collect seed. If you're gonna have to leave them in your car, put them in a cooler so they won't get hot. All right, once you get your seed dried, you leave them in to dry naturally for about a week or two, and then it's time to process the seed. There's different ways of processing. You can do take a pan and go through the seed heads with manually, roughly, and then take out all remove the petals and the sepals and the capsules and everything that's in the seed head, and then take them and with two pans, go outside and get on a slightly breezy day, and you can transfer them from one pan to the other, and with the wind blowing across it, and you can get a lot of the litter out of that pile of seed. Other ways of doing that, once you've done that, is then take them and then run through some strainers or sieves. Uh, Another way of getting the seed out of the pods rather than doing it by hand is taking them and putting them in a can with a few rocks, or even without rocks, take them, put them in a can and just shake them, shake, 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 with a lid on, obviously. And then pull out all the loose debris on top, and then pour out the seed into a pan where you can filter them through a sieve or through a strainer. Another method is actually saw this online and I thought it was kind of neat. If you have access to a paint mixer, putting the seed in a paint mixer and turn it on and let it go to town. But anyway, that's some method. But the way we do it manually, and the way I want to try to speed up the process is doing a better way of doing better cleaning. Uh, we can buy sieves from off in online. Uh, the set that I have a set of four. If you're gonna buy some, I would get either 4 or 5 to buy. Uh, that guy down here on the right corner, he has some. This is a commercial seed production, and he has the sieves um, made into a box, and he shakes them out. But anyway, using the strainers in your kitchen are ways to help you clean your seed to get the loose part of it. And it's not nothing wrong with planting seed that has some debris in it. For it. That's the next section we're going to talk about is storing seed. These are all dry seed. Once dry and clean, we place the seed in a marked envelope with the material, the same information that you wrote down on it that you had in the collection bag, with the plant name, the location, where the seed was collected, date, and the person for that particular species of seed. And then you want to store it in a container, paper or plastic box. And this is where there's some differences in the recommendations. We store ours in paper boxes or open, and we have vents in them. I mean, that vent. The proper seed storage recommendations are you don't store with high temperature or high relative humidity. That would reduce the seed germination. You want to store seeds in areas don't store with temperatures greater than 70, and don't store where you have humidities greater than 60%. The ideal storage temperature for seed is 35 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit with relative humidity of less than 40%. And to do that is to put it in a refrigerator. Most refrigerators will hold a 40-degree temperature, but may have a high relative humidity. The refrigerators that we use have been keeping our humidity down. And then this is where the recommendation is different from what we do, is store in a refrigerator. It should be kept in containers that have a good seal to keep the humidity levels low. In other words, once you dry that seed down to 15% or 20%, 10 to 15%, put it in your envelopes and then put it in a sealed container and then put that into the refrigerator would keep the humidity down. The other thing that is important is organization of the seed itself. You need to come up with some method of filing these seed. If you collect a lot of seed, whether you file them by scientific name, common name, or you decide to file them with all the asters together, or all the uh, uh, again indigos together, and so forth and so on. This is a picture on the left is one of our refrigerators where we have seed stored. We have them stored both ways in a box, and then that's sealed, and the ones that are not in boxes. And then on the right is showing a seed storage using a little knick-knack storage area container. All right, checking for viability, or how we know what the seed are they good or not? One way is taking a magnifying glass and a razor blade and cutting the seed in half, and looking at the germ to see if there's actually a good germ in there. A second way is to float the seed. Non-viable seed, bad seed will float on top, and your good seed will sink. And then thirdly, we want to do a germination test, is another method of doing, seeing if your seed are viable. Place the seed in a moist paper towel and place in a plastic bag and keep it warm around 70 degrees, and then check daily for germination. If the seed doesn't germinate within 2 weeks, I would say they're not very good seed, and you got to go back and try again. Seed maintenance. Some of the seed that you collect, you may have to do stratification to, and you're going to keep them in the refrigerator, and you're going to leave them in there maybe for a month or 2 months or so forth. You want to be able to, you need to check them every couple of weeks to look for mold. If you do see mold, one method I've seen online, which I was really surprised to see, was to use hydrogen peroxide on the seed to get the mold off of it, and then replace it back into the media. And then maybe if it's too wet, you add some peat to it to dry it out, to get the moisture level down. Or if it's too dry, you can add water to it to get that. But anyway, you need to do check your seed bi-weekly or 2 monthly. Fruits. We haven't talked about fruits and all, and that is wet fruit. I mean, like I've collected some plums this year, and you wonder, well, how do I get all the pulp off of those seeds? So one of the things to keep in mind is they do not need to dry out, and then most of them need to be scarified and before they put into a stratification regime. So you know that fruits normally, when they're eaten by animals, they go through the digestive tract, and then they're scarified, and when they are deposited on the ground, they are likely to come up in those places. So we want to kind of mimic that, and Midgley talks about that in her book. So how do we get the pulp off of the fruit? One method is to rot it off, is take the fruit, put it in a plastic bag and put water in it and set it in the garage or outside where it doesn't get exposed to the environment too much, and just let it set for a week or two and keep checking it until you can see all the pulp had come off of it, and then you just rinse off the rinse the seed, and then you have they're ready. But you keep them wet. You don't. Another method is to use a blender. If you have a blender with rubber blades, great. If not, you can take the blades in the blender and use tape on the blades to tape them up, and then you can just pulse the blender until you get enough of that pulp off of those fruits to get them clean, and then you wash off everything from there. Well, we've come to the end, and this is some of the reference material. This is the email of Jan Midgley. If you want to order her native plant propagation book, last year it was $27 plus shipping. All you need to do is email her, tell her you want a book, and she'll email you back and tell you how much it costs. All right, so are there any questions?
Hey, Paul, I came on late, and so did you show how to collect them by putting those little bags over the seed
Yes,
heads? Okay,
yes.
okay. I figured that you did.
There any other questions? Unmute if you have a question to ask. All right, well, hearing none, I hope that we have made this enjoyable for you to listen to. I hope we've answered some questions. I hope we have uh, spurred some ideas. And we hope to try to do this again, maybe later on the summer or maybe in the winter. And if no other questions, I'm gonna sign off.